course, we'll have live coverage for you the moment he does touch down. In the meantime, we want to take you to Tampa, Florida. That's where TPUSA has its big student summit going on right now. Mike Christie is in the hotel room getting ready to head over to the big festivities. What are you most excited for this weekend, Mike?
Well, Terrence, great to be with you and great to be in Tampa, Florida. I'm excited for this gathering of conservatives coming off the big victory. Obviously, President Trump, it's almost a one-year anniversary from the time in which he survived that assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania. So the one-year anniversary, bringing the MAGA coalition back together, celebrating how far we've come, getting the country on track. And everybody at this convention, Terrence, is buzzing about two things. One, they're buzzing about the deportation that are about to increase following the passing of the big, beautiful bill. And they're buzzing about what's going on right now with the Epstein file. So hopefully we can get together as a MAGA coalition and figure out what is going on there and how we can get more transparency and justice for this.
You know, I'm glad you brought up the Epstein files, because the reality is, to some in MAGA, the way this has been handled has been somewhat of a black eye on the administration.
Well, for sure. And, you know, Pam Bondi right now has some questions that need to be answered for. I do believe that the audience here at SAS is particularly interested in following up with Pam Bondi, with the Justice Department. It was reported today that Dan Bongino skipped work at the FBI, so looking to gather more information on that. But Pam Bondi, the buck stops with her as the head of the Justice Department, so I don't think this is going to be the end of it. The people at SAS want to know what we could do to get the transparency out of her Justice Department. She has the full authority to declassify and to put these things out, and to instruct her U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York to declassify and put out things that were part of Epstein's original case. So it's good to have the coalition together talking about this, staying on the same page, a united front for truth and justice and for the MAGA movement.
You talked about this united front for truth and justice. What sort of pressure can so many conservatives coming together at an event put on the administration, if you will, to get this information out? Because that's the ultimate goal.
Well, it's really interesting, Terrence. You know, Real America's Voice is talking about the Epstein files and the fact that the American people want to hear it. But other legacy news outlets seem to be not covering it. They seem to be complicit in not releasing any more information. So President Trump has answered a couple of questions from the pool reporters over the last 24 hours, and you don't really hear them asking much about it. But I think that this Student Action Summit and Real America's Voice continuing to shine the light on it is going to send a message to many people in the administration, which will inevitably get back to President Trump's desk, that Pam Bondi is going to need to do something here and that we can't just shut the book on it. This is a massive scandal that implicates so many people around the world. They want to make sure, the people at this conference want to make sure that our system is governed and run by the people, not foreign elites trying to have honeypot operations, trying to blackmail and influence politicians. So we're going to come together and we're going to make our voice heard, and I think that's going to be very important this weekend, Terrence.
What speakers are you most excited about hearing from? Obviously, this is all to motivate students. I have to say, I chuckled a little bit. I saw Dr. Ben Carson as one of the speakers. I was like, okay, they brought Grandpa in, and I love Dr. Ben Carson, but when I thought of Dr. Ben Carson rallying young people, that wasn't necessarily the person I would have thought of initially.
Well, I mean, he will deliver a sense of calm. You know, I said, how does he even talk so calm? I've talked on stage. I couldn't even talk that calm if I tried. But right. Dr. Ben Carson's great. I'm excited for Kristi Noem, you know, the most. Here's the deal. ICE just got an unprecedented $100 billion in the big, beautiful bill. If we're going to carry out mass deportations, now is the time. That was the number one reason that we all voted to support President Trump, was to clean up the southern border and get rid of illegals. So Kristi Noem will be taking the stage here at SAS. She's under the spotlight because she just got a massive infusion of cash from the passing of this bill. I'd like to hear how she's going to spend that money and how we're going to get these illegals out of the country in record pace, Terrence.
Gotcha. Mike, appreciate your reporting, my friend. Enjoy. Once again, you'll have live coverage of SAS, as they call it, right here on Real America's Voice.
another brand new broadcast day here at the Steve Gruber Show. Glad to have you here as we kick off another brand new week as well. It's going to be a huge week, all right? Huge week right here. Who do you want to share a foxhole with? Who do you want there in your foxhole? That's the question here today. This is Foxhole of Freedom here on the Steve Gruber Show. Glad to have you. A lot to talk about today, so let's get right to it. Three things at the top of the leaderboard. Number one, an off-duty ICE officer shot in the face by a violent illegal alien that should have been removed by the Biden administration, but instead released into the country. Number two, President Trump dropped a massive $10 billion lawsuit on the Wall Street Journal after it published an article claiming they had a birthday note. They claimed Trump wrote it and sent it to Jeffrey Epstein. $10 billion lawsuit. Let the games begin. And number three, the crime of the century now playing out in front of our eyes. One political crisis after another, and all with one thing in common. They are manufactured by Democrats who are all trying to upend this nation in exchange for power, money, leverage. So, move over Watergate. We've now got concrete evidence for the Russia collusion hoax that from here forward be always known as Obamagate, which blows Nixon's indiscretions out of the water, by the way. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard has declassified over 100 pages of hard-hitting evidence, showing quite clearly now that President Obama undermined the will of the American people by manufacturing the Russia hoax before and well after the election of 2016. He attempted a coup. That's the bottom line. He attempted a coup of his successor, President Donald Trump, the 45th president of the United States, and it almost worked. We now know without a shadow of a doubt that the corruption ran all the way to the top, with Barack Obama himself as the criminal mastermind behind the plot to scandalize the Trump presidency from day one. The documents released show that both before and after the 2016 election, the intelligence community concluded that Russia did not have the capability to hack the election in favor of President Trump. But Obama kept that reporting out of publication. He hid that and instead ordered his subordinates to construct assessments, creating the opposite illusion. He buried the truth in an attempt to bury Donald Trump. And again, it almost worked. And as soon as the election was over, he laid the foundation for doubt in the American people's mind in their elections. He laid the foundation for the Russia election interference hoax. Listen to this.
Unless the American people genuinely think that the professionals in the CIA, the FBI, our entire intelligence infrastructure, many of whom, by the way, served in previous administrations and who are Republicans, are less trustworthy than the Russians, then people should pay attention to what our intelligence agencies say.
We should listen to what the intelligence agencies say. But he had manipulated that. That was just 8 days. 8 days after Barack Obama received the report that Russia didn't manipulate the outcome of the election. And in fact, didn't have the ability to do so. It was simply not possible. And Obama, he didn't care. He went to work crafting a narrative. Let's get into that report. Here is Director Tulsi Gabbard as she lays out one receipt after another, after another. Here she is.
In the months leading up to the 2016 election, the intelligence community assessed, and this is what the documents detail, the intelligence community assessed essentially Russia doesn't have the tools, the capability, or the intent to try to change the outcome of the U.S. presidential election. Donald Trump pulls off a historic victory against Hillary Clinton in November of 2016. Even in the days after that election, the intelligence community continued their consistent assessment that reflected the same thing in the months leading up to the election. All of a sudden, in the early days of December, there was a president's daily brief that was drafted. This is put together by the different elements of the intelligence community that reflected that same assessment. Russia did not try to hack the election, in essence. That PDB, that document, was pulled hours before it was supposed to be published for the president to see that following morning. That document was never published until we released it yesterday. 1 day later, President Obama calls a meeting of his National Security Council, his top officials, to be held on what they called a sensitive topic. And the results of that meeting, which we released yesterday, and these over 100 documents that talk about in detail how President Obama and his team, he directed a manufactured piece of intelligence that detailed not if, but how Russia tried to influence the outcome of the United States election that President Trump won in November of 2016.
Remarkable. Lays it all out. Gabbard compares the impact of this kind of subversion to that of the cooked-up reporting that suggested that weapons of mass destruction were lying in wait in the Middle East 20 years ago. Reporting that cost our nation precious treasure, years, and lives, she said this is of the same magnitude, one that resulted in a $40 million Mueller investigation that yielded zero. But I say this scandal, far bigger. President Obama was making media appearances in 2017 after President Trump had won the election, of course, to continue sowing distrust in the Trump presidency. He did it over and over again. Here's more.
Trump. President Putin was trying to elect Trump?
Well, I think the report is very clear. Number one, the Russians sought to interfere with the election process, that the cyber hacking that took place by the Russians was part of that campaign, and that they had a clear preference in terms of outcomes. What I've repeatedly said is that, our intelligence communities spend a lot of time and effort gathering a lot of strands and a lot of data. There are times where they're very cautious and they say, we think this is what happened, but we're not certain.
Saying high confidence here.
This time, they've got high confidence, and having seen some of the underlying sources and information that they're basing this on, I stand fully behind the report.
What is that?
Complete lies, all of it. Because here's what the Presidential Daily Brief said, the one that he had pulled, buried, the one that never saw the light of day until Tulsi Gabbard said, release that document. Here's what it said. We assessed that Russian and criminal actors did not impact recent elections. And again, quote, criminal activity failed to reach the scale and sophistication necessary to change election outcomes. The Russians didn't have the skill or the ability. They didn't do it. That was on December the 8th, 2016. The very next day, a day that will live in infamy, just like the day 2 days prior, December 9th, the White House ordered a gathering of top intelligence officials, James Clapper, John Brennan, Susan Rice, Andrew McCabe, the list goes on. And that's when the story changed. We're going to get that when we come back. The biggest scandal in American history unfolding before our eyes. Somebody needs to go to jail. Somebody needs to go to jail soon. I'll be right back. right. December 9th, 2016. Barack Obama is in the room leading the meeting. James Clapper, John Brennan, Susan Rice, Andrew McCabe, and a host of other co-conspirators. That's when the story changes, because that's when the Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, his assistant, sends out an email after that meeting tasking these leaders with the creation of an assessment. That's right, the creation of an assessment, quote, per the president's request that would contradict the presidential brief. And here's James Comey, the head of the FBI, perpetuating that lie in early 2017. Listen to this.
There should be no fuzz on this whatsoever. The Russians interfered in our election during the 2016 cycle. They did it with purpose. They did it with sophistication. They did it with overwhelming technical efforts. And it was an active measures campaign driven from the top of that government. There is no fuzz on that. It is a high confidence judgment of the entire intelligence community. And the members of this committee have seen the intelligence. It's not a close call. That happened. That's about as unfake as you can possibly get, and is very, very serious, which is why it's so refreshing to see a bipartisan focus on that, because this is about America, not about any particular party.
Well, there's no fuzz on that already. That's right. No fuzz. He's a criminal, and so they all are. So they all are. He claims hundreds, maybe thousands of entities were targeted by the Russians, but it's not true. The intelligence community said just the opposite. What I'm seeing, hundreds or maybe thousands of lies. And like I said, no fuzz on that. You see, the world's tallest Boy Scout right there was then and is today a scumbag. That was part and parcel to the Russia interference fraud. It was Comey's own FBI in 2016 that indicated low confidence in the idea that Russia was behind the DNC attack, something that was left out of the official reporting as well. And then it was December 2016, which the Obama administration intentionally leaked claims that Vladimir Putin personally oversaw attempts to overthrow the 2016 election. And of course, the media was more than happy to share these kinds of leaks for the next 4 years to undermine the duly elected president of these United States, Donald J. Trump, by comparing the Russia hoax to 9/11. Listen to this.
I mean, according to the Washington Post, the idea that the president doesn't even want to hear intelligence about Russia's meddling in the election is a stunning thing, and that briefers have to kind of figure out a workaround is really eye-opening.
It's unique, as far as I can tell, in all of American history. It's an alarming report, Anderson, partly because the Washington Post has interviewed more than 50 people, so it's built up a lot of background, and it's a more solidly built report. But what comes out of it is the president, because of his personal insecurities not wanting to have his election diminished or discredited in some way, if he accepts the conclusion of his intelligence agencies that the Russians meddled, he thinks that's somehow going to diminish him, and he feels very uncomfortable about that, so he pushes it off.
This is something which the entire intelligence community has said, is concerned about. General Michael Hayden, former director of the CIA, says it's the political equivalent, the Russian meddling is the political equivalent of 9/11.
Yes, the meddling itself constituted a direct threat to American democracy, and that we are not cracking down on it as we should, and we're further at risk in future elections.
Well, what it does also is, for a president who's so obsessed with winning, it allows the Russians to win.
No. He was trying to allow Barack Obama to win, to lie, to have leverage. You're seeing the receipts here. And there you just saw the fake news trifecta, because it just wasn't Chicken Little News. It was the Washington Post, and New York Times, MSNBC, and all the major news networks in this country and around the world. The fake news trifecta. Fake news about a president not taking fake news seriously. And now finally President Trump is vindicated. Completely. Again. After being maligned by the biggest names in mainstream media for the good part of a decade, I want you to remember this. Take this one.
Biggest scandal was when they spied on my campaign. They spied on my campaign.
There's no real evidence of that.
Of course there is.
No.
It's all over the place. Leslie,
Sir,
they spied on my campaigin and they got caught.
Can I say something? You know, this is 60 Minutes, and we can't put on things we can't verify.
You won't put it on because it's bad for Biden.
We can't put on things we can't verify.
Leslie, they spied on my campaign.
Well, we can't verify
It's been totally verified.
No.
It's been, just go down and get the papers. They spied on my campaign, they got caught.
No.
And then they went much further than that, and they got caught. And you will see that, Leslie, and you know that, but you just don't want to put it on the air.
As a matter of fact, I don't know.
Yeah. You know what was unverified? The Steele dossier. It was unverified, discredited, politicized, fictional intelligence. But it was used to secure FISA surveillance warrants on, yes, the Trump campaign. What he said right there was exactly right. What he said there was exactly right. Has 60 Minutes apologized? Yeah, apparently. $30 million worth, but maybe it's time for another lawsuit because the $30 million was for dishonest editing of a Kamala Harris interview. Maybe it's time to revisit lawsuits against CBS. Because that right there, all of this lying, ruined lives of Trump officials like, well, Michael Flynn, for example. Despite the protests of people like the National Intelligence whistleblower in 2016 who was sidelined for failing to get on board with the Russia hoax, a narrative that the whistleblower could not concur with in good conscience. Same whistleblower was floored in 2019 when asked to locate records tied to the Steele dossier because he had always been told by James Clapper in his office that the Steele dossier was unreliable. You see how this is all playing out now? Biggest scandal in American history. This scandal laid out in person by Barack Obama December 9th, 2016, and I'm not done yet. People need to go to jail, I say it again, and soon. It's been referred to the DOJ. Prosecution time. I'll be back. All right, we continue on now. The intelligence community's public face, the entirety of the Trump administration during its first term, it's all out there now. The dishonesty, the web of deceit, the attempted coup, because that's what this was. Listen to this.
What a great case officer Vladimir Putin is. He knows how to handle an asset, and that's what he's doing with the president.
Do you still believe the president could be a Russian asset?
I think it's possible. President Putin's got a very high return on his investment.
He's taken a series of steps that had Vladimir Putin dictated them, he couldn't have mirrored more effectively.
I think what I just saw right there were 4 referrals for indictment and prosecution. So what now? Director Gabbard says she's referred this evidence to the DOJ, and the American public is ready for some accountability. The indictment of these officials need to make it out of the Twitterverse, out of social media and conservative media outlets. We need to see real consequences for these people. I'm talking about all the way up to President Obama. He clearly masterminded the entire coup. Brennan, Comey, Clapper, Rice, and all the rest there, who fell right in line for Operation Crossfire Hurricane, abdicating their oath to the Constitution for the oath to President Obama and his whims. And they dare talk about people that have faith in Donald Trump. Funny when you think about how they clamor about MAGA being too loyal to the president now, because it's nothing like the highest members of the government working to destroy it from the inside. The scandal led to 2 impeachment attempts against President Trump, the ruining of dozens of lives, heightened tensions with Russia, and the end of all trust in our intelligence communities and the media establishment, too. And don't forget the cancel culture campaigns against people like me. The consequences need to carry some real weight. Real weight. We need action. I just saw 4 referrals, and that's a nice start. Let's get to it. Time to perp walk some of these folks. They attempted a coup against the government of the United States. It's all laid out. Oh, and wait. I've got more. Something else just came in. Another smoking gun. You got to wait after the break. I'll have it for you. All right, so here's a recommendation for you. Follow Paul Sperry on X. Paul Sperry is a writer for the New York Post, among other things. Longtime Hoover Institute media fellow. With Obama's ICA imploding, That's the intelligence report. Dems are turning to the bipartisan Senate Intel report to maintain the hoax, arguing it confirms the ICA. Just one problem. Its star witness was Lisa Monaco. That's Obama's partisan aide who attended the secret December 9, 2016 White House meeting coordinating the sham ICA. I just mentioned another referral, didn't I? A new doc reveals Lisa Monaco attended a high-level December 9 White House meeting ordered by Obama to cook up intel against Trump related to Russia, along with Mary McCord, Celeste Wallander, Victoria Nuland, of course. The meeting was held in the Situation Room with McCabe and Brennan in the Situation Room so they could be locked away to hold their secret meetings to overthrow the incoming president of the United States. Obama's intel czar, James Clapper, had an intel analyst immediately removed for questioning the 2016 ICA conclusion Putin helped Trump win. Now a whistleblower, the ODNI analyst, was not allowed to see evidence backing the conclusion, which included the Steele dossier. And here's the one that I'm going to share with you now that is really big. I told you we had a smoking gun after the break. Here's what I was referring to, also coming from Paul Sperry, again, New York Post columnist. I'm told there are texts and emails indicating Hillary Clinton campaign aides directly coordinated with the Obama White House. Directly coordinated with the Obama White House. Texts and emails. They coordinated with the Obama White House, National Security Council, the State Department, and the intelligence community, with the officials at all those places in efforts to dig up dirt tying Donald Trump to Vladimir Putin in July 2016. And Sperry wrote this, and I'd have to agree with this. Oh, by the way, Tulsi says the whistleblowers now, not just one, they're coming out all over the place. People loyal to this country over loyalty to Barack Obama and the deep state. Sperry writes, as an Iraq war vet, DNI Tulsi Gabbard has a personal stake in exposing the fake intelligence cooked up by Brennan Clapper and other Obama spooks. She was directly affected by Bush and Cheney's fake 2002 national intelligence estimate on Iraq's non-existent WMDs. You see, Donald Trump is chemotherapy. Barack Obama and this whole tumor of corruption, the coup, they're cancer. That's right. Donald Trump is the chemotherapy to the cancer that is the deep state. The receipts are here and more to come. I'm looking forward to the announcements from Pam Bondi that indictments are coming down. Put this in front of a grand jury and you have no way to avoid prosecutions. And then you look a little bit deeper and farther. What about Adam Schiff or Liz Cheney and all of those clowns? Of course, they got pardons from the auto pen, the second biggest scandal now in American history. I mean, look at that list of people. Pardons handed out by staffers, not by the President of the United States, by staffers, by underlings, to help blanket them in immunity for the crimes they committed beginning in 2016 and possibly running through today, for all I know. For all I know, they're still committing crimes. People don't change, they just get older. Barack Obama, you are a criminal based on all the paperwork we have now. Thank God for Tulsi Gabbard. Remember all the people that opposed her? I always supported her. And how can you not now? How can you not support her now? Remember all the people that were opposed to Tulsi Gabbard. Conservative, chattering head. Blah, 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 blah. She's a Democrat. She's this. That's a shah. Stop. We put a veteran in there. She found the receipts. Didn't sit on them. Didn't hide them. She published them for all to see. For all to see. Yeah, Brendan Clapper, call me. How about this? Former CIA Director Michael Hayden. Referral. He told the Washington Post that Russia's election interference was equivalent to 9/11. After Trump correctly pointed out Russia had no impact at all in the 2016 election. The Washington Post, New York Times, they won Pulitzer Prizes based on horrible reporting on a fake story. They also wither in shame, be financially destroyed. And the fact of the matter is simple. It was never Russia that interfered with our elections. Here's something else you need to understand. It was China. And it was China in 2020 that took advantage of mass mail-in ballots to subvert the will of the American people. But look, I'll leave you with this. Maybe it's better. Maybe it's better that Donald Trump had 4 years off to sharpen his game, to sharpen his focus on what needed to be done. Maybe that's what we needed. Maybe the timing of it all worked out just the way it was supposed to. Maybe that's the takeaway. In the meantime, I got a great call on Friday, in case you missed it, telling me how wonderful the Hillsdale College classes are online. It was one of the callers on Free for All Friday. I don't remember his name today, and I'm sorry for that. But Hillsdale College has more than 40 free online courses. This is going to be one of them in the future, I guarantee you. The attempt to steal the American government from the voters. Hillsdale College has more than 40 courses. They're so well done. They talk about American history, how Congress was created, why it was created the way it is, how the Constitution came to be and who was involved, the Declaration of Independence, C.S. Lewis and the books that he writes and how that plays in, and Christianity in America and the foundation of this country. How did we get here? Hillsdale College explores all of these topics. They're fabulous. Reagan and Kennedy and Lincoln and Washington. Tremendously cool classes, and they're all several chapters each one. You'll enjoy. Go to gruberforhillsdale.com. It's free. gruberforhillsdale.com. They're all free. How do you get anything better than that? Netflix ain't free, kids. Support the people that matter. Support people that think like you. gruberforhillsdale.com. And support me. By going there, you're helping this program be on the air. gruberforhillsdale.com. Thank you for your support. right, you probably heard this story, but if you hadn't, you need to hear it. An off-duty U.S. Customs and Border Protection agent, a police officer, shot in a Manhattan Park Saturday following an apparent robbery gone wrong. The 42-year-old officer was in stable condition Sunday. He's expected to survive. No indication that he was targeted because of his employment. But the officer was not in uniform. He was sitting there, he had a date. He was there with a woman in the park beneath the George Washington Bridge when two men approached on a moped just before midnight. Passenger got off and approached the officer, who realized he was being robbed. He drew his service weapon. They exchanged fire. The off-duty officer shot in the face and arm. The perpetrator also shot, but hobbled back to the moped with his buddy and drove away. The suspect, identified as Miguel Mora, a 21-year-old illegal alien with an extensive criminal past, released into this country by, you guessed it, the Biden administration. He arrived at a Bronx hospital. He had gunshot wounds to the groin and leg. Mora's injuries consistent with what was seen on the surveillance video. He entered the country illegally. Arizona 2023, had 2 prior arrests for domestic violence in New York. This is the kind of guy you want in your country, right? He's wanted in New York. Robbery and felony assault, and in Massachusetts over stolen weapons. The CBP officer bravely fought off his attacker despite his wounds, demonstrating enormous skill and courage, so said Donald Trump in a truth post. This is the outrageous things that we cannot tolerate. Enough already. All right, so there. We've got that. Second thing. I want you to hear from so Barack Obama masterminding. The mastermind behind an attempted coup of the United States government by his administration to damage the incoming president, the 45th president of the United States, Donald Trump. And what are Barack Obama's priorities today? Did boys have a gay mentor? Wow. Barack Obama wants boys here to have a gay mentor. That's apparently the most important thing to a guy who tried to destroy this country. Listen to what he said.
And that's one of the things that I think a lot of times boys need is not just exposure to one guy.
Mm-hmm. One dad.
No matter how good the dad
is. He can't be everything.
He can't be everything. And then that boy may need somebody to give the boy some perspective on the dad.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
One of the most valuable things I learned as a guy was I had a gay professor in college at a time when openly gay folks still weren't out of line, who became one of my favorite professors and was a great guy and would call me out when I started saying stuff that was ignorant. You need that to show empathy and kindness. And by the way, you need that person in your friend group so that if you then have a boy who's gay or non-binary or what have you, they have somebody that they can go, okay, I'm not alone in this.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah. So boys need a gay mentor over their dads. What could possibly go wrong with that? There's your former president, Barack Obama, advocating for that. Meanwhile, Donald Trump dropped a $10 billion lawsuit on the Wall Street Journal. You probably heard that because they published a story after being warned that it wasn't real. Another fake news story by another outlet. Wall Street Journal has gone down the toilet as well. They published an article claiming that they had a letter written by Donald Trump to Jeffrey Epstein for his 50th birthday. There was some sort of weird play deal with a picture of a naked woman drawn on the piece of paper, whatever. Trump said, don't do it. It's not real. They did it anyway. He's suing them for $10 billion. Listen.
If you were on the legal team, would you have felt good about filing this lawsuit?
No, it doesn't matter. I'm not on the legal team.
That's a telling answer.
I mean, look, I'll say...
That sounds like a no.
No, it's not.
No, don't do that. Look, here's what I would tell you, Caitlin. This is very sincere. You know, defamation cases for a public figure are much harder when it's a broad stroke type event where you're saying this network, whatever network, is treating me unfairly, and here's a whole bunch of examples. When you have a singular moment where you can say this is defamation, and I think Alan Dershowitz won a case on CNN for this down in South Florida, when you have a single moment, it tends to make the case stronger for the plaintiff. And that's what we're talking about here. There's nothing that suggests this is going to be the Wall Street Journal has forever been mean to me. So I think it's got a chance, but it is, again, institutionally uphill when you have defamation of a public figure.
Yeah, there you have it. Defamation of a public figure. I don't think that she liked. Caitlin Collins didn't like the pushback. No, don't do that. Jim Trusty was the former Trump attorney you were hearing from right there, breaking the narrative on the lawsuit into pieces and tossing it out the window. Yeah, that's what you just saw there. As well you should. As well you should. All right. How about this? Have you seen the numbers lately? These people are getting rich off of crypto. But hardworking American patriots like you and I, left behind, but not anymore. Block Trust IRA, changing that, bringing the crypto opportunity to real Americans like you. Crypto is fueling President Trump's America First economic plan. Now is your chance to join the movement. The Animos AI trading platform runs 24/7, crushing old school strategies, helping patriots just like you build serious wealth, just like the elites. Named the #1 crypto tech platform by Bitcoin Magazine, Block Trust IRA offers up to $200 million in protection. The clients are seeing returns of over 250% sometimes. It's jaw-dropping. Whether you're a teacher, a truck driver, if you're retired, a small business owner, doesn't matter. This is your time. Get up to $2,500 bonus crypto when you sign up right now. Please go visit SteveGruberCrypto.com. Find out more. SteveGruberCrypto.com. Look, I'm just here to help. Please support the people that support this program. It makes it possible every single day. Do your part. I'll be right back. about another win? How about one more win before we close out this hour? America's biggest medical facility for transgender youth is closing. Hallelujah. Children's Hospital Los Angeles, the nation's largest provider of gender procedures for youth identifying as transgender, announced it's closing down its program. It'll happen tomorrow. Done. They said mounting legal and financial pressure stemming from the Trump administration's policies have put them out of business. They described the decision as heartbreaking, adding that it followed a thorough legal and financial review in light of the increasingly severe impacts of recent administrative actions and proposed policies. Good. I don't know if you could find a program that has packed more great information into a single hour than what we have just done here. I mean, seriously. Good luck finding another program that packs more information into a single hour than we did here today. And every day, for that matter. Thank you for being here. If you've got a well, by the way, if you're in the northern half of the United States and you have a well in your yard, you're already halfway to a geothermal system. Just add a well connect in as little as 8 hours and you start saving big money. You can cut your heating costs by half. Your total expenditure on utilities, up to 90%. You can extend the life of your furnace, cool your home more efficiently, and for almost nothing without major renovation. It's the fastest, most affordable way to bring geothermal home. Learn more. WellConnectGeo.com. It does not replace your furnace. It does not replace your air conditioner. It's an add-on. If you're a do-it-yourselfer, you can do it in about 8 hours. If you don't want to do it yourself, find your favorite HVAC folks. They can get it done. It's made in Michigan. It's patented in Michigan. Built for your well. WellConnectGeo.com. You want to save a ton of money, and if you finance it, your savings will exceed your payment. You're going to come out money ahead no matter how you do this. WellConnectGeo.com. You can learn out if you're a good match. I'm telling you, Montana, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, New York, New Hampshire, Vermont, you pick it, you got it. WellConnectGeo.com. Another big hour. The Steve Gruber Show is straight ahead. Are we going to do it again? Of course we are. More information packed into this handy-dandy reusable television program than you can ever imagine, and radio too, of course, and streaming as well. We're everywhere. Hit the like button, my friends, and share with your friends as well. It's the Steve Gruber Show.